All right, ready for a deep dive. Today we're going way beyond the usual flood narrative.
Oh, yeah. Deeper into Noah's Ark.
Exactly. We're exploring what happens after the waters recede.
After the flood. That's interesting.
You want to understand the covenant of the rainbow, right?
The rainbow, yeah, that's a big one.
We're turning to Genesis chapter 9, King James Version.
Oh, okay, the classic.
And we'll be adding insights from Matthew Henry's commentary
A little extra depth.
to really unpack its significance.
So not just the rainbow, then.
Not just the pretty colors. This chapter sets up a whole new era. It's like a reset for humanity.
A reset. How so?
A new relationship with God. With each other, even.
That's a big claim. Foundations of civilization kind of stuff.
Exactly. It's like a reboot, almost. New rules, new challenges, the whole deal.
New rules? Like what?
Well, it starts with God blessing Noah and his sons.
Okay, that's familiar.
He tells them to be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth.
Classic God stuff. After all that destruction, though.
Right. It's a powerful call to action. Like, go forth and make this new world work.
Yeah, a fresh start. But I thought eating meat wasn't allowed before the flood.
That's the twist. This time, God gives permission to eat meat.
Interesting. But there's that blood thing, right?
You're right. There's a prohibition against consuming blood. That always makes me wonder.
Yeah, it's specific. Why blood?
What's the deeper meaning behind that restriction, do you think?
Well, it could be about emphasizing the sanctity of life.
Sanctity of life? How so?
Blood in the Old Testament often symbolizes life itself.
Ah, I see. So eating it is.
Like overstepping a boundary, a reminder that only God has the power over life and death.
A bit of a check on human power.
Exactly. It ties into that verse about shedding human blood.
Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed.
That's the one. Heavy stuff.
For in the image of God made he man. Powerful statement.
It's about the sacredness of human life, the need for justice.
So even in this fresh start, there are boundaries, consequences for messing up.
You got it. Mercy, sure, but also accountability, a balance.
Right, but then, amidst all this serious stuff, we get the rainbow.
The covenant of the rainbow, the iconic image.
Everyone remembers that. It's visually stunning, that arc of color.
Bridging heaven and earth after the storm.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But I admit, I never thought much about what it means. Beyond the promise, I mean.
Well, Matthew Henry points out something interesting.
Oh, tell me.
He focuses on the bow's direction. It's pointed upwards.
Upwards, not at the earth.
Right. Not a weapon, not a threat. It's meant to comfort.
Huh. Like God saying, don't worry, I'm here.
Exactly. Not a reminder of destruction, but assurance. God's protection.
Wow. I never noticed that. It changes the whole feeling, from fear to safety.
A symbol of hope, reconciliation, but, human nature doesn't just magically become perfect.
Oh, no. Things get messy. That's where Noah, the vineyard, and Ham come in.
Right. That story always confused me a bit.
Me too. What happened there?
It's complex, and Matthew Henry adds another layer to it. We see Noah, drunk on wine, vulnerable.
Ah, the human side of Noah.
His son, Ham, sees this, and he tells his brothers.
Like he's trying to exploit the situation. Disrespectful.
You could see it that way. Contrast that with Shem and Japheth.
Noah's other sons. What do?
They take a garment, walk backwards to avoid seeing Noah's nakedness.
To preserve his dignity.
And they cover him. A stark contrast.
Showing respect. Especially important within families. But the curse. It's not on Ham, right?
That's the puzzle. Noah curses Canaan, Ham's son.
A servant of servants to his brothers. That's a heavy curse.
It is, and Matthew Henry connects this to the historical subjugation of African people.
Oh, wow. That raises all sorts of issues.
It does. How interpretations can be shaped by biases, by power dynamics. It's crucial to acknowledge that.
Absolutely. It's a reminder to read these texts carefully, critically.
But even within the story, there's that ripple effect. Choices and consequences, Noah's actions, Ham's reaction, the curse. It sets the stage for conflict, for power struggles.
Wow, so much happening in just one chapter.
Right. New beginnings, but also shadows, complexities, and sometimes the consequences of choices echo for generations.
It's a reminder that even with a fresh start, the past can still have a hold on us.
Exactly. But amidst the curses, there are blessings too. Noah blesses Shem and Japheth.
Shem, the one who showed respect, right?
Yes. And from him, according to later biblical narratives, comes the lineage of the chosen people.
Okay, so this chapter lays the groundwork for so much that follows.
Absolutely. God's relationship with humanity, relationships between people, it's all right there.
Wow. I'm already seeing Noah's Ark in a whole new light.
And we've just scratched the surface. There's still so much to explore about the covenant itself, what it means for us today.
I can't wait to dive deeper. As we go deeper into Genesis chapter 9, it's that lasting impact that keeps coming back to me. The consequences, sure, but what it says about us, about humans, about how we relate to God.
It's a puzzle, isn't it? We see God's mercy, God's faithfulness right there in the rainbow covenant.
That promise to never again destroy the world with a flood. It's powerful.
A symbol of hope, for sure, of renewal, shows God's commitment to humanity, even though
we mess up, even though we're flawed. I mean, think about it, that level of destruction. And then a fresh start.
Exactly. But then Noah, chosen by God, but still human, he falls for temptation. And those choices, they have consequences, big ones.
That's the tension that keeps you reading, right?
Yeah.
That even the good guys can stumble.
It reminds us we're all capable of both. Great faith, but also, big missteps. And that whole thing with Ham, the curses, it raises some tough questions about justice, about punishment, about sin echoing through generations.
You're right. And Matthew Henry's take on Canaan's curse, well, it reminds us to be careful, to think critically about these old texts.
Absolutely. Interpretations, they can be twisted by biases, by power dynamics. We can't ignore that.
It's on us to read with a discerning eye, to make sure our understanding doesn't lead to harm or exclusion.
So yes, Genesis offers this hopeful message, new beginnings, God's faithfulness, but it's also complex, nuanced. Human nature is right there on display, the good and the bad, all mixed together.
Which is why it still resonates with us today, don't you think? Because who hasn't felt that? Striving for good, but wrestling with temptation at the same time.
Absolutely. We see ourselves in Noah, in his faithfulness, but also his weaknesses. The Bible isn't about perfect people. It's about our journey with God.
With all the ups and downs that come with it, triumphs and failures, grace and struggle.
And in those stories, we find truth about faith, about morality, about God's love and forgiveness. It never goes away. What about the legacy of the covenant itself? I mean, the rainbow, it's gone beyond the Bible, right? It's this universal symbol now.
Of hope, of promise. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
The story has this enduring power. The rainbow, it speaks to something in all of us, a longing for peace, for renewal, for some kind of security in a world that can feel so chaotic.
Especially these days, right? It's a reminder that even when things are broken, there's still hope for a better future. And for people of faith, that hope, it comes from God.
Beautifully said. But the story, it also challenges us. It makes us think about how we interpret these teachings.
To make sure they promote justice, compassion, not harm and division.
We can't just read passively. We need to engage thoughtfully with a discerning heart to recognize that these texts, they have power to inspire, but also to mislead.
Truth and responsibility, they go hand in hand. As we head into the final part of this deep dive, I think it's worth pausing here, reflecting on what this story means for each of us personally.
That's what it comes down to. We've looked at history, theology, now the personal. What does Noah's Ark, the covenant of the rainbow, mean for you as you go through your own life, your own journey of faith?
That's a question we all need to grapple with. We'll explore that and more in our final part. Back again for our final look at Noah, the flood, and that incredible covenant of the rainbow. It's been a journey, that's for sure. God's blessings, Noah's struggles, so much packed into just one chapter of Genesis.
And you know what gets me? It still speaks to us today. After all these years, it's about human nature, about choices and consequences, about hope, redemption. Those things are timeless.
And that's why we connect with it. We've seen how even Noah, chosen by God, messed up. And how his actions, they had huge ripple effects. But through it all, there's the rainbow, God's faithfulness, that promise of no more destruction.
And that's where the real message is, don't you think? No matter how far we stray, how big our mistakes, God's grace is still there.
It's like that image of the bow pointing up, not at us, not about punishment, but about comfort. Restoration. It's about second chances.
Exactly. A covenant with Noah, with all living things. And that same offer of love and forgiveness, it's for us too. Not because we're perfect, but because God is faithful. Always.
That's a powerful thought. But honestly, sometimes these old stories, they feel so far away from our lives. How do we take these lessons from Noah's time and make them real today? Like, what does that even look like?
I think it starts with accepting who we are, the good and the bad. Just like Noah, we can do amazing things, be faithful, courageous. But we'll also mess up. We're human. Recognizing that, that's the first step.
So be honest with ourselves, with God. about our struggles. We don't have to pretend to be perfect.
That's it. It's a journey, ups and downs, and God's with us the whole way.
That takes a lot of pressure off. But the story also reminds us that our actions matter, not just for us, but for others. Like Noah's choices affected generations.
It's true. We have to live responsibly. Think about how what we do impacts others. Strive for justice, for compassion. We're all connected. And our actions, they create these waves that go way beyond ourselves.
It's humbling, but also it's like, wow, we can make a difference, good or bad. And that brings us back to the hope in God's covenant. Even when things are tough, we can hold on to that promise. God is with us, He won't leave us, and He's working to bring about peace, restoration, all of that.
And the rainbow, it's a sign of that. Not just pretty colors, but a real reminder of God's love, His faithfulness, a promise that even in chaos, in uncertainty, there's hope for a better future.
It feels like we've come full circle. We wanted to see what happens after the flood, and it turns out it's about new beginnings, about hope's staying power, about God's love for us no matter what.
It's been a great exploration. As we wrap up, one last thought for you listening. We've looked at history, at theology, at what it means for us personally. Now it's your turn. What does knowing the whole story, not just the rainbow part, do for you? Does it change how you see this story? And how can this old tale inspire you to live with more hope, more compassion, more purpose in your own life?
Those are the questions to keep thinking about. We hope this deep dive has given you new ways to see things, new things to think about on your own journey.
Thanks for joining us.
And until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, keep diving deep.